You guys hear that? That's a hot topic alert. We have a super hot topic, not bare, foot running. We got a naked foot up here. Should you do it? Should you not? Why? So I asked the audience, I said 4 reasons. Never okay. In my opinion, anyone that tells you never or always, automatically I don't trust them. I don't believe them because there is always a circumstance. It depends. Best answer for everything. It's always correct. But there's never say never. So overwhelmingly, the majority said no clue, but that's okay. That's what I'm here for, to try to help you. And then we were kind of split between never okay and always okay, which I think is really interesting. So as always, I am not here to tell you what to do. If you love barefoot running, if you love the minimalist shoes, you don't have any issues, great. I am not trying to change you. I'm just trying to help and offer perspective for people that may have medium knee pain. So what are some of the arguments for barefoot running? Prevents heel strike. We don't want to land heavy on our heel. It doesn't feel good. It's just a bone. There's minimal padding there. It doesn't feel good to overstride, which is one of the most common running form errors that we do. If you're barefoot, we tend not to do that. Promotes landing softer and under your center of mass. To the point before, it doesn't feel good if you're going to slam your foot into the ground. It allows you to land a little bit softer, a little bit quieter. So it helps to promote that softer, more cushioned landing. And we tend to land under our center of mass more because it doesn't feel good to land out in front of us. More proprioceptive control. So that's a fancy word for where's my foot? What is it doing? Is it pointed down, pointed in? Where is that the ground? Is it hard, firm? We have a lot of receptors in the bottom of our foot that try to tell us where our foot is. If we put a lot of layers between your foot and the ground, that's harder to tell. An example is if I have a coin and I have it just on the table, I close my eyes, can I tell what that coin is? If I put a textbook over it, I'm going to have no idea what that coin is. What does it feel like, the size? So there is something to be said for having more proprioceptive control. And finally, intrinsic. Intrinsic means the muscle originates and inserts or ends in the foot. So we have a lot of muscles that make up part of the arch of your foot, and we tend to get weak. If you don't use it, you lose it. If we just rely on a shoe to help keep our arch up and support it, it does get weaker. So one of the arguments is when we run barefoot, and if you're not sure, if you just balance on one foot with a shoe on versus barefoot, or if you've ever been paddle boarding, your arch burns. You feel the muscles in the bottom of your foot working. So what are the arguments for shoes? So the shoe absorbs some impact. Think of an old pair of shoes that you've had for a year, 2 years. It's worn down. That same wearing, that same force that goes through that shoe is also going through your body. So we want the shoe. It's easier to replace your shoe than it is to replace your knee. So we can change out these shoes every so often. You've only got one knee your whole life if you're lucky. It protects them. Make sure you don't land on something. If you stub your foot on a sidewalk, if you're on the trail, a tree root, it protects your foot. It can improve performance. You've got some elastic recoil. So as we go, I haven't talked about it a ton, but when we go faster, when we speed up, we hit the ground harder. We're trying to create more force. When we're barefoot, we have a harder time doing that. It's harder to strike the ground that much harder to create that much more force because it doesn't typically feel good, even when you're landing underneath you. Shoes can also have some of that elastic recoil. Think about a trampoline. You push down, it pushes back. So shoes can offer some help with performance as well. And let's be honest, a lot of us, they look cool. They make you feel sexy, iconic. That shouldn't be the only reason, but it's reality. I'm going to give you the answer again without giving the answer. This is one of the biggest arguments for barefoot running. This was a patient I had years ago. I wanted to see what does she look like running barefoot versus with shoes. She didn't have great motor control. Look what happens when she's barefoot. We'll zoom in a little bit closer. Just like we talked about with some of the benefits or the pros of running barefoot, of not overstriding, not landing on the heel, she naturally has more of a knee bend, 20 degrees versus 10. The more the knee's bent, the more the quadricep muscle can absorb that versus the knee joint. She's becoming more of a forefoot runner here versus she's overstriding and landing heavy on the heel because she has a false sense of security. She doesn't have the proprioception. She's just throwing it out. And most shoes have a certain amount of height to a heel, so it's harder to bring the foot back underneath you and land on your midfoot if you've got a higher heel to it. So this is one of the biggest arguments, is that the mechanics that we run, typically barefoot, is the way that you should do it. Now, here's your aha moment. What do you see? And I'm going to let this play through again at the end. I'm barefoot. I've got shoes. What do you notice? I'm going to overlap them too so you can see as well. What do you see? It's the same. So hopefully that's an aha moment for you. I want you to know that's learn to run. That's the reason why I created this. Prevents the heel strike. You can learn to do that. It promotes landing softer underneath your center of mass. That's what I've been harping on. We can learn that. More proprioceptive control. We can learn where is your foot in space. That not necessarily, some of that goes hand in hand with some of these other things, but you can learn better control of your feet, higher cadence, higher step rate. What part of your foot are you landing on? Building the intrinsic muscles of your foot. We can do exercises still, barefoot exercises, to work on building up some of the strength. So especially those first two. And don't forget, this series is about medial knee pain, which often is an excessive loading on the inside of your knee. So can we run with the same form that we run barefoot with some cushioned, lightweight shoes? That's my thought. In my opinion, this is my opinion, barefoot running can be done as a training tool. It can be done while you're learning how to properly run. How does it feel to land underneath you? Watch, let's go on the treadmill, let's go barefoot, see what you feel, let's tape it, let's put some shoes on. What do you feel different? Can you emulate that barefoot running form with these cushioned shoes? In my opinion, the main benefit of barefoot running is it helps improve your mechanics passively, but let's actively learn it. That's what this whole page is about. So it's like going to a Spanish class versus going to bed listening to a Spanish lecture. Passive learning. You learn a lot more with active learning. I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps you out. If you guys have any comments, questions, opinions, let me know. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Matt Minard, and I'm so passionate about helping you run safer. If you found this video helpful, if you could please subscribe and share it with your friends, I'd be forever grateful. I have shorter form content on my Instagram, Learn to Run, and then the longer stuff here, more lecture based, because I understand we come to different platforms for different reasons. So follow me over on Instagram if you want the short and sweet, and follow me on here if you want the longer breakdowns.